great intro. Hey everybody, welcome to a new
the
series.
First show.
This is a new series on the Think Business platform. It's called "What Are You Good At?" With my co-host Jeff Gunsberg. Our guest today is Jamie Garvalia. Jeff, we did a podcast together on sales, Think Sales, back during COVID. We did that, I think, for like a year and a half or so. Yeah, we did that for a while. It was great.
Yes.
And this came about through a conversation that we were having with a group of people. One of the things you said kind of in passing is asking somebody the question, what are you good at? You and I started talking about that, and hence a series of what are you good at? I'm going to share what I love about this question, and then I'm going to pass it off to you, and then Jamie, same. But, to me, it's, I think everybody's trying to find this nuance, superpower, unique ability. I don't necessarily love this saying special sauce. Everybody's trying that one little thing that makes them a little bit different in a world today where you have to differentiate yourself. And I think the question really intrinsically connects you with trying to find that answer. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
I was thinking about this, and I was wondering to myself, like, are you born with that? Right? Like, is this something that like is ingrained in you like from the very beginning? Or is it something that you learn? And I think it's a combo of both. And like for me, I had like just in my life, it's you get the gift of gab, and you start having conversations and all that stuff. But like I just wonder to like other people, like how that goes. Everyone has a certain level of skill, right? And what is comfortable really to them. And like I worked with Jamie for some time, and like she's just amazing at what she does. I'm good at what I do. I am not good at what she does, right? So like I know that I think one of the main things for me to identify was what I'm not good at, right? So when I identified what I'm not good at, it kind of led me to Jamie. So I'll kind of kick it to her from there.
Oh wait, so real quickly, Jamie, before you talk a little bit about, we're talking a little bit about what are you good at? How do you work together as a team? How do you scale? How do you grow through synergy, teamwork, delegation, et cetera? Can you just talk for a second, just so somebody who's listening knows, what does Jamie do for you or with you?
So Jamie is my right hand, right? So anything I don't want to do or am not good at doing, she does. And she's my organization and handles all the preparation for me of scheduling events and dealing with individuals and like organizing myself, but also just really diving deep into how to manage my sales team and is really tries to learn like who she's dealing with, and for me it's invaluable. So it's been a really nice experience for me to have somebody that I can lean on other than you, John. Because I lean on both of them, and listen, you both are extremely important to me and what I do, and I think it really speaks volumes to know that like I cannot do what I do on my own. And I think a big part of this series too, as we start through this, is uh most people can't do that, right? Like you have to identify what you're good at and what you're not, and try and find the people that you can surround yourself with that can help you through that whole thing. So
surrender,
surrender,
ask help, and delegate. Enter Jamie.
Yeah. So
enter Jamie.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Jeff. And it has been so much fun getting to know how you work and your team. And I have to say that it's so funny that you say, like, I agree. Like, anything that I see you do, all of the meetings you have, all of the schmoozing you do, all of the, like, you are a people person, like, at your, maybe not at your core, but like you are that in business. And that sounds like awful to me. So like, to me, I could never do what you do, which makes your entire business grow and run. But to me, organization has always been, something that I knew came easily to me. Figuring out how to implement like a vision. You have visions for your team, what you want to do, how you want to grow them, how you need to get there. And Jon, you coach them up, and then I just execute it in any way that I can. And then also help with little things like, I feel like just your calendar or whatever, which is super easy to do and doesn't feel big, but I do feel like it actually helps pave the way for you to take out all that noise so that you can then focus on the two things you need to do, which is lead your team and grow your business, which you do so easily, which if the roles were reversed, I would be, having a panic attack every day. Right. So I'm so happy I don't do. So I do think that to figure out what you're good at, I think you're right. Like, yours is innately a people person. Me, I'm innately organized and able to take a vision and help implement it. Jon, innately, you can coach people. It comes to you the way in which they need to move in order to grow themselves. And so I think there's a lot of nature in that. And then I think through experience and the multitude of jobs you have over your life and the things that you're like, ooh, I was not a good waitress. You know what I mean? But I'm great at this. Whatever it may be, you find out oh, this was really bad. This did not work for me at all. But this really wasn't that bad at all. And I really enjoyed it and whatever. So I think that is a lot of trial and error, but a lot of nature.
Yeah. I two things. One, I want to talk about something, but I was actually a really good waiter. And I think,
by the way,
organization I would be, but I was not.
I loved waiting tables. I loved waiting tables because I loved getting to know people and trying to help them figure out what they wanted to eat. But I want to talk about nurture versus nature, because I think it's a great topic. And I think, Jamie, you talk about nature. But it's the mentors along the way that nurture your gifts, and being open to finding those mentors and recognizing who a good mentor is, and then maybe a mentor maybe for just a small little season. So some people, I remember coaching a guy, and when I was in commercial real estate, and he kept on telling me he was doing something one way, and I was like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Where did you pick this up? He's like, well, I was a bartender, and some guy that I served gave me this piece of advice, walked away, after talking to him for 30 seconds and never, so sometimes those aren't necessarily the best mentors, but sometimes they are. So it's like, how do you know when a mentor is in front of you? I think that's a good topic. How do you know when the right?
You know what I was thinking too is sometimes it's really best to, I found real advancement in my career seeing how not to do stuff.
Yeah.
Versus how to.
Mm-hmm.
Watching, people do the wrong thing is a really, as long as you can identify that, I think it gets you to a really good place, quicker than trying to identify what the right thing is. Because the right thing could be so many different things for you based on where you're going, but the wrong thing pretty much identifies itself quickly, I think.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of right ways to do something, but you certainly know what you should be doing. You know as soon as you see it, and then absolutely, you can feel it.
But I think also on that, I think sometimes people who disguise themselves as mentors who tell you to do something, it takes a lot of courage sometimes to tap into your own instincts to know what is right for you. So just another layer of that. I once had somebody who disguised themselves as a mentor who told me that, hey, you're too kind. You need to be ruthless. I was like, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. And I was
Jon
still
Dwoskin ruthless. I'd love
right.
to be.
And I'm not saying this to impress anyone, but I was, running a top, I was running a top office, and it just didn't jive with me. So I think you have to have internal strength too, to kind of really discern what's right and what's wrong.
Great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, as far as mentors go, like, there's also people that are put into your path. So I've had lots of different people that I've worked with. Some were, their expectations were super high and it felt super stressful, whatever. And I learned certain things that really took me to the next level because of those people. And then there were people that were really easy to work with, and whatever, and those people taught me something different. So I feel like you also have to take what you can from everybody, and it's not always going to look the same. Every mentor is not going to look even remotely the same in your life.
And I've like, you don't need to use that, right? Like, like here, somebody gives you advice and you think it's wrong. Mm-hmm. You don't need to take that, right? No. Like, you can hear that, put that in your memory bank, and then move on and, agree that maybe that's not right for you. So.
Or even try it on for size and be like, ooh, that did not feel right for me at all.
You're right.
Like, I'll try this person's advice, and then it doesn't resonate at all. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah.
So how do you know what you're good at, Jeff? How did you figure out what you were really good at?
I was a little forced, more so, like from in my, in my upbringing, I had to make some choices of like work wise that I wasn't really certain of at the time. And, I explored some things that didn't work for me very well. And I think to figure out what worked good for me, I had to like be able to, identify what didn't. Right. So, I knew I was always personable and could have some conversation. And, once I found something that I really believed in and I thought would benefit others, and I felt that I had a service level and a product that made some sense for people, it gave me the chance to actually feel comfortable in what I was doing and what I was selling. And for me, it was really selling myself, and still in today's times, I deal with people because they like working with me and I enjoy working with them. And we have a really good balance between us, and a really good, a likability, like a reason that, people can reach out and speak their mind and say that they didn't, like they don't like this, or they need help on this, or, like the accessibility of me, after I realized like what I like, and people coming to me didn't really bother me anymore. Like I enjoy getting the deal done and figuring out things for people, and, trying to add value to them, because, what I'm doing at a volume level doesn't, like it, you can't really understand it unless you're in the shoes of the person who's trying to get the one deal done, right? Like that one deal is so important to them. And, I take on that same level of, I guess I would consider myself a partner, right, in their deal. Like I don't get paid until it's done. And I feel very confident that, we've got a service that can help them get to that point of closing. And, I'm just always looking for the way that I can really just kind of jive with my client and get ourselves to a good spot. So, yeah.
Like it. Yeah. Jamie, how about you? How'd you know what you were good at?
I think it was a little bit about trial and error and failing, honestly. So like, I remember I tried to start a business with my mom, as you would know, John, and she wasn't in a position to be like a partner in the way of like somebody to, she was like, helping me start it. It was amazing to work with her for a couple of years, but I knew that I couldn't, I was not the salesperson in that business. I was the operator in that business. And so I think I figured out through the business didn't go, and it felt not great to me at all that didn't go as I had hoped. But I think what I learned is that I need somebody else to help me get help like drive the sales portion of things or the vision portion of things, which I can have a vision too, but help me have a partner in anything that I'm doing to say like, this is, I think, how we should do it. How you can now implement it. So I realized through that process somehow that like I was an implementer, an integrator, not necessarily the person who's going to go out, an executor. Not the, yeah.
That's how I see you. Like
yeah,
for me,
not
like
somebody who's going to go out and get the business. That would just didn't feel good for me. Right. That's why we work so well together.
Side for me, and you can
exactly.
Execute for me, so it like works well.
And that was from me trying to be that person in a different setting and it not working and feeling that failure and feeling that like, and then being like, well, that isn't, I'm learning something from that. And that what I've learned is that this is how I operate. And so I think that's really how I figured out what I'm good at. And then being okay with that.
Jon, how did you figure out how you were good at what you were doing?
So I will credit my parents 100%. My mom had a huge piece, but my dad really had the biggest piece. Long story short, when I was 18, my dad said, hey, I think you're going to do great in college, but I think you'll learn more from these tape sets than you will school. And he handed me Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Success. And I became obsessed, and I studied it still to this day, every single day. And every day to college, I was listening to a different, on my Walkman, my disc player, a different book or series by these people. And so I knew that, and I remember at 18 thinking, I want to write books and be a business coach and grow companies. And so I graduated college in, I think 4.5, 5-ish years. And then, when I graduated college, I didn't have a job. I didn't know what I was going to do. My brother and a buddy were in our, great room and said, we're going to start this. We have an idea. We're going to start an internet company. I said, well, let me sell for you. And then 2 weeks later, I thought, I'm pretty good at sales. Give me a third of the company and let's be partners. They did. And then we grew that company. And so I realized, I'm good at sales. And then I'm good at growing companies, and I'm really good at listening. And then I kind of monetized active listening, I would say, because I think I'm more of, I think people think I'm more of an extrovert than I am. I'm more of an introverted extrovert, where I really like listening to people and helping them get unstuck and kind of tap into something that they're not seeing that's so obvious and in front of me, and then getting them kind of, to their next level, and yada, yada, yada. I lived in commercial real estate for a little bit, and not following a straight line. It was just like, all over the place. And then I realized I'm just good at coaching people, because I can get people into this. What I realized is I can get people into a space that they can't get to on their own by questions that I ask, hearing things that they can't hear, and then extracting a simple business plan. That I think when I was younger, I just want to say one more.
Cut you off, but go ahead, please.
I was going to say that when I was younger, I thought, God, this is too simple. I need to sound smarter than I am. And the older I got, I realized getting things to simple is kind of is something I'm good at.
Gift, right?
It's so funny because like you did what you are doing now before you knew you were even doing it. Like maybe in your mind you might have been, but like, I'm sitting in your office, like in a, for years in a therapy session, is how I kind of like, identify it. Like, and we would just chat, right? Like, like you were in the commercial real estate space, and we're, just chatting about like what's going on and like, all that stuff. And you just had this, unique ability that was different than, what I've, experienced before. And we just like created a very nice friendship, from the jump. And I didn't really even know that this, like who knew like where it would go, or like that we're sitting here now on a podcast and doing this.
Right.
But um I just always identified the fact that you just had a perspective. And I think, for anyone that's that's viewing this, it's really nice to find that perspective that works for you in all of this, right? Like, like how can you take a step back from what you're doing and figure out what you might be good at, right? So and identify for yourself. And you've always said this in coaching us, right? Like, who's in the right seat, right? Like, are you doing the right thing for you? And to identify that for yourself, I think is really important, and I think is really the basis for the whole call.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say two things. One, I feel like I've heard that about Jon from other people before. Like, you're like a business therapist, right? Like, everybody's like, I just sat with Jon and I just like threw everything out there, and he was able to like be like, this is what you need, and this is what you should do, and this is how you should approach it. And I feel like you are like a business therapist in that way for people, like, because they're right, like on people's stress is often their business, and so it does go hand in hand a little bit.
Right.
But then also, I feel like, Jon, you said something that kind of resonated with me. And Jeff, I know yours was a little bit more linear, but like my path to where I am now was very all over the place. And I think just for younger people who are starting to, you have kids in college and one's graduating, and that I just think kids these days have to allow them life to take them on that ride of not to like be so specific in where you need to go, but like you may have different jobs than you ever thought, and you may try new things, and allow yourself to learn what you're good at through all the different ways in which you like kind of maneuver through.
I couldn't agree more, Jamie. I think there's so much pressure on these kids today to know what they're good at. Like we may have known what we were good at, but it takes years and sometimes 5, 10 plus years to really identify it. There's so much pressure that they have coming out of college. It's so unfair, because business life, it's not a straight line, and it's zigzags, and everybody ends up where they're supposed to be. And Jeff had
to go somewhere else, obviously.
But this is a series that Jeff and I have started. It's called What Are You Good At? Jamie's going to be on every once in a while. We're going to have guests every Monday at noon. I'm really excited about it. And Jamie, it's great to have you as our first guest and talk
Thank you for having me on.
How much you're helping Jeff and making a difference at Title Connect. Jeff is a principal at Title Connect for all your title needs for commercial and residential. They do 1031 exchanges and all title work for people all over the country. I'm Jon Dwoskin. I'm a business coach, and it's going to be fun doing this on Mondays. And if Jeff were here, he would do a recap, but I'll recap for us. Take time, don't rush it, to find out what you're good at, and everything just becomes a lot more fun and a lot easier. Jamie, any closing thoughts?
Nope. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to hear you and Jeff throughout the weeks, interview new people and learn about what everybody's good at. So.
All right, good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Take care.